over the United States of
Pounding
America
the table.
who deserve so much better than your leadership.
Pounding the table.
That's what this conversation is about, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, they deserve the truth, and that's what we're going to give them for the first time in the history of that agency. With the various ways of allocate the health dollars, they're all like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. And this chronic disease, we are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at CDC.
People who want to exercise their freedom of choice are being denied that.
No, they aren't. Everybody can get the vaccine.
Because you are citing data that you won't produce to the public,
You're just
and you are rejecting
You're
science.
making things up to scare people, and it's a lie.
RFK Jr. obliterates Ron Wyden. This guy is going to lecture him about health and wellness of American citizens when he looks like he's on the verge of death, basically a walking corpse. But he's getting into some questioning here, and RFK Jr. said, my man, you've been in this position of power for decades, and people are getting sicker. So why don't you stand by and let us manage the health of the country in a proper way? Here's the exchange.
Senator, you've sat in that chair for how long? 20, 25 years, while the chronic disease in our children went up to 76%, and you said nothing. You never asked the question why it's happening. Why is this happening? Today, for the first time in 20 years, we learned that infant mortality has increased in our country. It's not because I came in here. It's because of what happened during the Biden administration that we're going to end.
I'm going to let Senator Wyden respond briefly to that, and then we're not going to go over like we just did.
This committee on a bipartisan basis. Colleagues, my cabinet secretary.
Yeah, great. So bipartisan basis, Republicans and Democrats are responsible for the worsening health of America. Great. And the dude didn't even turn his mic on, so it's hard to hear him. I don't care if it's bipartisan. The health consequences have been a disaster over the last several decades. And there's this stupid little thing that these politicians do. It drives me nuts, but they talk about their intentions and their work that they've done with good intentions to get good outcomes. And they intend really good outcomes, right, is what they always tell us. But the problem is their policies don't result in any good outcomes. They result in worse outcomes. They told us that Obamacare was going to solve everybody's health problems. Healthcare has gotten way worse for most people, and it's not improving. So if it's bipartisan, that's fine, but you have to have some actual accountability for the consequences of your policies. And we can see the health consequences in America across the board. We had some of the worst health outcomes of the whole planet during COVID. Why is that? I thought we were supposed to be super advanced and state of the art in a first world country. We've got people who are sick as hell, dropping dead. They didn't even tell us back during the pandemic to go get some exercise and lose some weight, which was a very key comorbidity. Nothing happened. And now we're getting somebody who's actually healthy, somebody who actually takes care of himself, has eliminated, his drinking and a lot of his vices, exercises every day, spiritually goes to AA meetings every day, right? He's actually somebody who's doing healthy things repeatedly. And now the entire sick class of sick people are waging and raging back against him. Here's the end of this clip.
Secretary says that we have no interest in chronic care. Mr. Secretary,
Mr. Chairman, could we have regular order, please?
We are in the process of turning around the Medicare program with the chronic care bill that Chairman Hatch, when he was chairman,
Great. Pass a bill.
put together on a bipartisan basis.
All right, we're going to proceed.
All right, so there we go. So they're going to pass some stupid bipartisan bill that nobody cares about, and it's going to result in very little progress, but they'll pat themselves on the back and say that they are doing a great job. Here's another exchange with another senator, and RFK Jr. calls him out too.
No safety
You can characterize it any way you want. I quoted them today. What I said was accurate. What you said were lies. You described moving the Titanic.
Are you saying that a mRNA vaccine has never been associated with myocarditis or pericarditis in teenagers?
I am simply.
Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I am simply trying to say that the people that you have put on that panel after firing the entire.
You're evading the question.
No, I'm asking the questions here.
No, not right now.
Question.
I'm asking the questions.
Nope.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yep.
I'm asking the questions for Mr. Kennedy on behalf of parents and schools and teachers all over the United States of
Pounding
America
the table.
who deserve so much better than your leadership.
Pounding the table.
That's what this conversation is about, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, they deserve the truth, and that's what we're going to give them for the first time in the history of that agency.
Yeah. He just lets it hang there for a minute, looking around at all the other idiots. I was waiting for him to say, little punk at the end, we're going to finally tell the truth, little B. But He didn't say that because he's a class act. Maybe I would have. But this young lady over here is also nodding her head. Watch this right there. Yep. Get it, RFK. Let's go, baby. Take it to him. Look at that nod. All right, good stuff. So he was unloading. I got even more here. This is during his opening statement. So he was going to give us a little bit of, statement before he got the questions. And some maniac was in there protesting during his opening speech.
Will continue to be in our thoughts. Let me start with the big picture. Under President Trump's leadership, we at HHS are enacting a once-in-a-generation shift from a sick care system to a true healthcare system that tackles the root causes of chronic disease. Chronic diseases reach crisis proportions in our country. And finally, we have an administration that is taking action. The Maha Report assessment, which the White House released in May, was the first government analysis of the key drivers of childhood chronic disease: ultra-processed foods, chemical exposures, physical inactivity, and over-medicalization. This month, we will follow with the Maha Report strategy, the Trump administration's solution for addressing each cause. At HHS, we haven't just been writing reports. We have been the busiest, most proactive administration in HHS history. In just half a year, we've taken on food dyes, baby formula contamination, the grass loophole, fluoride in our drinking water, gas station heroin, electronic cigarettes, drug prices, prior authorization, information blocking.
Get her out of here.
The committee will come to order.
Get her out. You're killing us. We need our hyper-medicalization in order not to die. And if a doctor says I should take all of these pharmaceuticals and I need to take another pharmaceutical to cancel out the one pharmaceutical and take another one to cancel that one out, then you're good, right? What's happened is the medical system has become a product, essentially, and they want to sell as much of it as they can. It's all over the TVs, every other commercial, brought to you by Pfizer, remember that? So now we're getting some reform on this, and there's an important concept in health that I wish they would talk more about. RFK, I think, does this, but this is the policy. It's the concept of via negativa, okay? Removing things is often better than adding things. There's a whole book about it by Nassim Taleb back there in one of them. Via negativa, maybe Skin in the Game. It's a great book. Anyways, so there's a bunch of other, ways to address health problems in America other than just popping a pill, and nobody wants to talk about it. So here is another one, and he says, the numbers have gotten very bad. It used to be a much smaller portion of the American population was actually sick. Now, those numbers are increasing dramatically.
Yes, Senator, this morning I got the latest numbers from CDC that 76.4% of Americans now have a chronic disease.
Wild.
This is stunning. When my uncle was president, it was 11%. 1950, it was 3%. Today, it's 76.4%. 8 out of 10 of our kids cannot qualify for military service. This is a national security issue. When my uncle was president, we spent zero on chronic disease. Today, we spend $1.3 trillion.
Insane.
It's the biggest cause. It's increasing. And all of the arguments that Republicans and Democrats have about single payer, Obamacare, or the various ways of allocate the health dollars, they're all like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Totally. And this chronic disease. We are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at CDC. They did not do their job. This was their job to keep us healthy.
Thank you,
And I need to fire some of those people to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Thank you,
Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, RFK. Oh, gosh, it's like music to our ears because it's been the opposite for a very long time. And we also had another clip here from our friend Benny Johnson, and here's what this clip was with RFK talking with Cornyn, who's in a very contested primary with Ken Paxton, and he's looking like he's down bigly.
Do you believe COVID-19 was politicized?
Yeah, the whole process was politicized, Senator. We were lied to about everything. We were lied to about natural immunity. We were lied to about, we were told again and again the vaccines would prevent transmission, they prevent infection. It wasn't true. They knew it from the start. It wasn't true because that's what the animal studies and the clinical trials showed. We were told that there was science behind cloth masks. The CDC allowed the teachers union to write the order closing our schools, which hurt working people all over the country, and then pretend it was science-based. All of these issues, and then I can show you, like, for example, Chairman Wyden was talking about me politicizing ACIP. During COVID, probably the most famous scientist on ACIP was Martin Kulldorff from Harvard, the great world-renowned epidemiologist and vaccinologist. And he criticized the COVID booster mandates. They ejected him from COVID because he wasn't in the orthodoxy. The two biggest health officials at FDA during COVID, Dr. Gruber and Dr. Krause, criticized the Biden mandates, vaccine mandates. You know, President Biden said in August, I would never take that vaccine, the Trump vaccine.
Then got it.
And he came in, he mandated it, and then he fired the two top health officials at FDA who said, hey, this thing has not been properly tested. So the whole process was politicized, and even today.
Total scam. We got lied to, we got abused. They wrecked an entire generation of people. They've sown so much distrust in any federal institution after their censorship and their forced mandates and all the things. And now, man, it is like a real relief to have somebody who actually cares about American health in the position. And he is a walking example of it. He lives it. Okay. We saw him do the 5-minute challenge, and now he's coming out and just obliterating these people one after another. We had this one from this lady who gets called a liar right to her face.
Those parameters, you did it behind closed doors.
No, the data is all public.
Now parents who decide that they do want their children to have
You're just making stuff up, Senator.
I'm not
You're
making
just making stuff up.
You know, sometimes when you make an accusation, it's kind of a confession, Mr. Kennedy. So let's just settle with this. Here's what's going to happen. To Senator Warner's point, to the parents who are concerned all around the country, to people who want to get the COVID vaccine this fall, even if they're under 65.
Go get it.
Because the boosters have worked. There's been much less serious disease. People do not have the same level of threat and risk from COVID that they used to because of these vaccines. People who want to exercise their freedom of choice are being denied that.
No, they aren't. Everybody can get the vaccine.
Because you are citing data that you won't produce to the public.
You're just
and you are
rejecting
science.
You're making things up to scare people, and it's a lie.
With respect, I do not think I'm the one making things
You
up.
are
Thank you,
lying
Mr. Chair.
right now, Senator.
Oh, look at that face. She knows she's lying. That's a lie face right there. So shout out to RFK for calling her out. And people love RFK because he's speaking truth. This is all true. We all know that we got lied to and they abused us back during COVID. Even many people on the left. And I've talked to people on the left, not a lot, but I've talked to them. They all were like, well, I got it. And there were so many examples of people that I knew that got the jab and then immediately got COVID. And you could kind of see the wake up call that was going on in their brains. They're like, wait a minute, this is really weird. I'm like, what? Well, and it was a strange thing that happened, and people realize it, and you can just look around. You just walk around society. People don't look well. In many instances, their fault, okay? It's their doctors telling them, you're fine. And RFK, I think, is setting an example for everybody. It's inspirational to me. He goes to AA meetings every day. I mean, it's living health. It's living vitality. And that's what we want in this country, and he's a good example of it. And the polls are reflecting this. Here's what CNN said.
Harry, it's interesting. All morning long, I've been saying Secretary Kennedy could be the most embattled member of the cabinet. Fact check me here.
No, I think that's a false. That's a Daniel Dale fact check for you. False on that. What are we talking about here? Net favorable ratings of key Trump officials. Look at this. RFK Jr. ain't exactly popular, but he's the most popular of all the key officials that we have recent polling on. Pete Hegseth, his net favorable minus 14 points. J.D. Vance, minus 11. Marco Rubio, minus 10. RFK Jr. is at minus 7, but minus 7 beats minus 10, beats minus 11, beats minus 14. So, no, RFK Jr. is not a drag on President Trump. He's not the most embattled. In fact, he is the most popular official in Trump's cabinet, at least according to the polling.
It is interesting, though there have been calls for his resignation among some people in the CDC. This was surprising to me to see these poll numbers here, which is why I welcomed the fact check from you. Another thing in the news has to do with Florida, where they're trying to overturn all vaccine mandates, including vaccine mandates in school for children. What do the polls tell us about that?
Okay, this to me is one of the most interesting and, in my opinion, most troubling trend lines that we have seen. Okay, vax kids against infectious diseases, the government should require it. You go back to 1991, it was 81%, okay? Then we go to 2019, it's 62%. Look at where that number fell to by 2024.
Tremendous.
It was just 51%. That is a 30-point drop from 34 years ago.
Yeah,
My
don't
goodness
need 100
gracious.
vaccines
now, a bare
anymore.
majority say that the government should, in fact, require kids to be vaccinated against infectious diseases. Amongst Republicans, it's the opposite. The majority say the government shouldn't require it. Now, I should point out this does depend a little bit on question wording. Polling out this morning says that the government should encourage it, but encourage it is very different from requiring it. And when it comes to requiring it, the American public has become increasingly skeptical of the idea that, in fact, the government should require kids to be vaccinated against infectious disease.
Yeah, because they said that you had to get the jab the last time around and that was going to solve all the problems and nobody was going to get sick and stop transmission and all that. And it turned out that didn't work out as well as they lied to us about. So interesting trends there from CNN. And, you know, I don't know that I really believe that these are all negative. I think that these are negative for Democrats. I think many Republicans are very happy with all of those individuals up there. And RFK Jr. is leading the way. So great stuff from RFK Jr. Happy to have him at the helm so that our country gets healthier.